Hey friends, and welcome to another Workabee video. I'm Becca.
No, I'm Becca.
She's Becca.
And I'm Eugene. Actually, he is. Let's do it again.
I like that.
Oh, okay. Oh,
We're still rolling.
Awesome. Well, welcome back to our table. A few weeks ago, you might remember that we reviewed Eugene's portfolio that he had put together when he was applying to go to school at Ryerson University here in Toronto.
Make sure you hit that link up there and check that video out as well. We got a lot of awesome feedback from you, and we're also going to link it down below in the comments, so if you want to watch it later.
Yeah, and I
won't
really,
hold it against you.
I learned how much Eugene embraced and loved suburban construction. So I'm really excited to dive into my portfolio. I just uncovered it literally in a box in our basement, and I haven't looked through it in a really long time. I have an idea of a couple of the photos that might be in here, but a lot of it's a mystery. So I'm really excited to get going and share it with all you.
Now, before we jump into Becca's portfolio, we want to let you know that if you stick around till the end of the video, there will be an opportunity to actually get your portfolio reviewed right on this channel and share it with so many awesome creators that have been coming on board and subscribing. So if that's something you're interested in, make sure you stick around till the end of the video to find out how you can have your portfolio reviewed, and hit subscribe so you don't miss some of these awesome fun videos we have coming up.
Absolutely.
All right, let's do this.
So I'm really excited that this is actually in here because I've been telling you about this lately. So I took photography at high school in grade 11 and grade 12. And this was like my end of year project. So there used to be this musician who played at King and Simcoe here in Toronto, and he would wear a box or a paper bag on his head, but I like to call it a box, so that he was obscure, he was anonymous, but he was definitely an older man, I could tell. Basically what these pictures are showing how I displayed them to get my final grade. I borrowed a music stand from the music classroom and just taped up the photos on the stand, and I think it made a pretty cool presentation.
Cool. I think it's interesting to me because that's something I definitely learned once we got into Ryerson, like kind of creating a body of work and presenting it.
Yeah.
Whereas like when I was in high school, kind of the way I showed my work was totally not on my radar. Like I don't think we'd ever printed off any photos. Maybe we'd make like a website or something or upload them to Flickr. But this is like really cool how you sort of like created a finished art piece, which is definitely something I hadn't even considered doing.
Yeah, that's really funny you point that out because I feel like when I was still in high school, I was just kind of like taking photos. I wasn't really thinking about a series, but I totally was making a series here. So I don't know where that idea came from. I'm
curious how many of our viewers, do you work in like a series and body of work? And do you think of it as like, I need to create a finished series? Or do you sort of just like endlessly make individual pieces? Let us know in the comments below.
Yeah.
Because I think that's different. There's definitely two groups of photographers in that regard.
For sure, for sure.
Cool.
Yeah, I really like these. This is, it's really great to know that these are in here. Okay, so let's continue. Ooh, okay. So basically I took two of my favorite pictures from this project, a closer up portrait and something a bit pulled back. I really love the shape of his body in this one, and then we have the beautiful lines in the background. I still really love that building actually. And then in this image, I love just like his dark suit kind of just bringing your eye towards the middle, and then we have the blurred figures. I remember doing this on purpose, definitely using a slower shutter speed. This is awesome. I don't know, it's just like really reminding me of that time. Like I would have shot this maybe in like 2006. And the great thing about my high school is that the wing where the photo classes were was completely redone. So we had a really beautiful classroom, we had a small dark room where we could process our film, and then larger dark rooms where we would print our prints. So that was really cool. And we were doing it in trays as well. One thing that I want to point out going forward is like, I'm really thankful that I had that opportunity because we were shooting everything on film, which was a really big difference between our portfolios because all of your stuff was shot digitally. It's awesome.
These are beautiful. I think it's great, just them in relationship to each other. I find so many photographers, especially when they're just starting out, they get caught up in a certain like distance from their subject, either photographing like really tight portraits or just like 3/4 portraits. And just like in one set of images, and even some of the ones you had sort of here on display in the beginning, there's a great variety of like you coming in really tight on the face, then showing some context of the broader environment, you know, getting some longer lens shots where the background falls out of focus a little bit. I think it's showing like a really great, you know, you're working the subject and you're not just like taking the most obvious photo as you walk up to it, right? All right, let's see what else you got.
Sounds good.
Oh,
okay, cool. Interesting. This is a picture. I'll pull it out for us to look at. This is a picture, I believe I may have shot this in the backyard. Basically at my parents' house, we had a big forest in the backyard, and I believe I found this door out there. And I was really obsessed with vintage doorknobs at the time, so I just really loved it. I think the composition's kind of interesting with the branches. We have different like light patches happening.
Yeah, I really like the light in them. I like the kind of weird angle and perspective, and I definitely, as you know from my portfolio, I can relate to kind of like exploring found objects that you come across. So I really love this one. What's this?
So this is like one of, I feel like I have so much pride in this image. The contrast is just so gorgeous. So I was really fortunate to do a English credit in Edinburgh between grade 11 and 12. And because of shooting film in my photography class, I got just really into like having my camera on me, shooting snapshots, which I really don't do enough of anymore. And so when we had just gotten to our residence in Edinburgh at the beginning of the trip, I did a walk around the property. I found a beautiful bush with bumblebees around it, and I just kind of like edged my way into this wall, and I loved the ivy on it. I loved the barbed wire going into the distance, but I think it just was processed really beautifully. Like the fact that there's so much bokeh or bokeh.
It's such a beautiful fall off on it. It feels like a moment, like some sort of magical moment. I know there's like the barbed wire has a like ominous tone, but it doesn't feel like that at all. It has like a secret garden aspect obviously to it, and it's almost just like a beautiful impressionistic painting like as it peters off.
Thank you.
So yeah, I really love this piece.
Okay, let's continue. Again, this was shot when I was doing my English credit exchange, let's call it. We got to spend 2 weeks in Edinburgh and then 2 weeks in Dublin. And, you know, we would be learning, doing our English classes, but we would also do like a lot of day trips and visit different institutions and stuff like that. So this was the gorgeous Kilmainham jail. I was just absolutely obsessed with this building. We were also learning a lot about Irish history at the time and like Michael Collins. And there's like a lot of history tied in to that time period. I remember after we got the tour, I was just so like fixated on the building. I just went and I think someone was with me from the jail, but they kind of like stood back, let me take my time, get these images. I just love the architecture. Like the ovals in this bridge were so cool.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Also, I believe this jail is in the Italian Job. So keep your eyes peeled. Yes. So here's a couple of more shots. Awesome. This is an image then looking up the stairs. I just like love the cage. Again, very symmetrical, put something in the middle.
Are you shooting these on like a film DSLR?
Yes, yeah, these were shot on my Nikon film camera.
Awesome.
Yeah.
These are gorgeous. I mean, also the tones you got, like were you editing them on a computer? Were you...
No, like these were just literally printed by Henry's.
Awesome.
I love it. Cool. So basically I wanted to move into more of the digital side of things and show my expertise with Photoshop.
I think it's important to note, like right when we were graduating, this was like when digital cameras were becoming like a professional tool.
Yeah.
Like when we were going through school, when we entered, the curriculum was almost entirely film-based. And as we finished, it became almost entirely digital-based.
Yeah, that's true.
So during this time, there was a lot of like questions amongst professional photographers of like, should I switch now? Is the technology like not good enough yet? Should I start learning those skills? So it's interesting that even you at that time, you kind of like had this, you were really interested in shooting film, but then you knew that this was coming and like you had to do this.
Well, I think the great thing was that I was also doing communication technology alongside photography. So I was getting like a little bit of both worlds. And I had just a little point and shoot like Kodak Easy Share camera that I was just shooting all my digital photos on. So this was a picture taken in London during a trip with my family. And I don't know, I just obviously love the leading lines. These are beautiful buildings. The double-decker bus just going out of the frame. This is kind of I think I thought I was being like really original at the time, but this color selection is quite a popular trend. To the extent that I believe IKEA had an identical photo to this, but mine was better and mine came out before them.
I think it's definitely one of the first like Photoshop tricks that anyone learns is like desaturate everything except one color and like mask it back in.
And it's so easy to select something like as simple as a rectangle.
And it could look cool, but it's just been so overdone that I think like when done subtly, it's like really interesting. But I love just like the leading lines of this image. And even, you know, like I like the piece you did, but even if it's just that like frame, it's like a beautiful photo. Is this Piccadilly Circus or?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have like it totally captures the chaotic nature of that place. Like I've
Yeah.
only been there like once in my life, but it feels like that where you're like everywhere you go, there's curving, tall, like beautiful buildings curving out of view.
I know.
And there's cars everywhere and like
Exactly.
bustle. I'm curious what it looks like right now.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah,
Cool.
I just like love the cars coming in all directions. It's definitely chaotic. Cool. I love it. So again, this is kind of sticking with the digital side of things. In my Comtech class, that's really when I got hands-on with Photoshop for the first time and playing with like all those different like textures and layer effects. And this was before I knew what a layer mask was. So a lot of it was kind of just painting out and experimenting. We actually came across the files for this image and like there was, the speckles are actually from, it was a close-up shot on a vase with flowers in it. So all the bubbles were against the glass. And then we have like these little cascading flowers here. And this was gonna try, like, I was trying to show off my like dark and moody side with it. I remember actually showing a boy in my class and he was so like taken aback because it didn't seem like me at all. And I was like, exactly, that's the point. And yeah, it was just really fun. Like I just kind of did the scribble effect with the cursor.
How are you learning like the different digital techniques? Is it mostly through Comtech or were you doing tutorials or anything like that?
Oh, no. I was not doing tutorials at the time. I was just really into just kind of like experimenting. And I know like you learn later on that like a lot of these effects are a little cheesy, but I like how they came together in this.
That's the only way to learn, I think, like post-production is like you do it, you go too far, and then you like dial it back, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
This is the final one?
This is the final one, yeah. So again, this was kind of within, or it was within the same series of collages I was doing. I think the project or how I interpreted the project was just to do a series of collages that were about me, that like demonstrated the different sides of me. I was just really fortunate to have traveled like quite a bit like in high school, and I had my little Kodak EasyShare camera, so I was always photographing everything, and I was just like, I love traveling. I'm full of wanderlust, and like this is me looking up at the world and dreaming about all the places I've been and all the places I'll go. And I still really love this.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, I think it's great. It's like, just the thing that stands out across your whole portfolio, it's like a lot more biographical in a sense than my work. To be honest, like that kind of stuff just wasn't in my mind, like making art to kind of like express myself. I know that sounds funny because that's like why people make art. But for me, it was really just about like exploring like a camera. And maybe it's just because my school didn't have like that kind of context. So it's really exciting to me to see, and now the art that I'm making is a lot more about myself and more like expressive about myself. So to see that you were doing that at that age and kind of like playing around with all these techniques, like honestly, in our program, the digital side was very weak. So like, I think like most people went through the program and they still couldn't do something like this that you were doing in high school when they got out. So I think it's cool, and I love the idea of like capturing all these assets. That's like really my favorite thing about photography is like you go out in the world, you pick all your ingredients, and then you come home and you get to make like a delicious meal out of them. This looks beautiful and very kind of like unique places and textures. And yeah, I think it sums up your time. Like it's like a very accurate self-portrait of that time, right? So I think it's great.
Yeah. And I'm glad I had the experience doing this because I remember one of the projects in first year at Ryerson tech class was to do a collage.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
I kind of had that experience already.
That's so cool. What would you say, like, looking through the portfolio now, do you see like the evidence of like your future work or things you're interested in? How is it now that you've like...
Yeah, I think I like definitely continued kind of with shooting like empty spaces or just spaces in general, and also kind of things that can be overlooked sometimes, like the box man. Like I really just loved how unique he was. Even though people were watching him, he also seemed like a bit solemn. A theme that I eventually came across at the very end of my time at Ryerson was I really loved to capture, what were my themes? It was like memory, place, and home. So definitely kind of, having memories of things. Right? Yeah, which is pretty amazing that I carried that theme Or I even had that theme like back in high school because I wasn't acknowledging it at the
Well,
time.
I feel like when you're in school, you're like, I need to find my style. I need to know, like, what's my work about? And then you like, whatever time passes, you like start to forget about that. And then you realize like, oh, I knew what it was all along and I've been doing it this whole time. Like, and I shouldn't have worried about it at all.
Yeah, it's so true because I remember it was like I wanted to go to photography school because I like taking pictures. But for me, I always like it was like individual images, and it was really at Ryerson that we learned how to put like a series together and have like a concept or a story. But I feel like there's elements of that in the work I was doing before.
Oh, definitely. Well, thank you so much for sharing these with us.
You're very welcome.
Like we mentioned at the top, we would love to see your portfolios and see your work. So if you're a photographer, if you're a videographer, drop a link to either your portfolio or just your Instagram or YouTube channel down in the comments below. This way we can check it out, the rest of our community can check it out, and we're gonna do one better and select a few portfolios to review right here on the channel.
Yeah.
So we're gonna talk about how we can improve them, different things to focus on, filling in maybe some images that you can drop. So if you're in the middle of reworking your work right now, getting ready for things reopening, and you want some feedback, you know, we've been taking photos professionally for over a decade, each of us, from clients like the New York Times to Nike and Canada Goose. So we've done every kind of photography. We've sat on portfolio reviews, and we'd love to help you out and kind of like all learn as a community together. It's been so much fun looking through our first portfolios. Again, if you haven't seen mine, check it out right here.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun filming that one.
And we'd love to see yours and maybe make this a bit of a recurring segment if you're interested. So please let us know in the comments below. And if you had fun watching this video, give us a thumbs up as well.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for taking the time to look through my old portfolio with me.
We really appreciate you watching. My name is Eugene.
And I'm Becca.
And we'll see you next time.